Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Today is the third week, the beginning of the third week of lockdown here in the UK, so I'm doing my one allowed form of exercise per day. I think I have pretty good news for the channel because director Rogelio Sánchez Toledo, a really great Mexican director, started working on a short film. It's a bit of a passion project for him, and he asked me to score it. This is the fourth film that I do for him. It's the third or the fourth? I think it's the fourth, but the first one was a very small thing that I did for him. And since this is basically, as I said, a passion project that has a tiny budget, this is gonna be all samples and not a particularly strict deadline, I asked him if it was okay to show you the process and to basically score it together with you, and he accepted. He was really glad. So I guess for the few next episodes we're gonna do that together, and I'm pretty excited about it because the film is really cool. The film is called Insolación. It's in Spanish, which I'm not great at, although I did live 1.5 years in Spain, but you know, I'm Italian, pretty similar language, so I should do just fine. Excuse me my sunglasses, by the way, but the sun is really strong over here. This film is something that I'm particularly excited about because first of all, it's really good. I really love Rogelio's film, and it's always a pleasure to work with him, and we have pretty similar tastes in terms of cinema, films, and music. We're both massive fan of David Lynch, for example. And second of all, because I never have the chance to show you any of the projects that I'm involved with, because obviously can't show them on screen. And he was so kind to let me do that. So I think it's gonna be cool. I really hope you enjoy it. We're gonna start today setting up the session in Logic, and then we'll see how we can move forward. I really hope it'll be interesting for you. Alright, welcome back. First of all, let's talk a little bit about how we should set it up. You know, if I'm scoring a feature or anything that, involves more rounds of approvals and definitely more revisions and a number of other things, sort of a master session, I would set up things quite differently because I would probably deliver the score to someone to mix it, if not to record it, and so the process would be more complex. But on a project like this, I want to keep things as simple as possible. First of all, we're all gonna do it in Logic. We're gonna set up the master session in there. I'm gonna mix the entire thing. I'm gonna record the whole thing. It's actually gonna be everything in the box, I think, pretty much. I might record guitar at some point, but it's gonna be just me playing, so there's no need to move sessions around. And the other thing is that's fairly typical, I'm afraid, with indie films, is that what we get in terms of material to work with sometimes is not 100% perfect. I already had a conversation with the director about this, and he's trying to get me more stuff. So typically, what you want to have is at least a separate track for the music, a separate track for the dialogues, and a separate track for the sound effects. And first of all, we don't have that. We have the full film, which has, which we can use as a reference. It has all the music and all that kind of stuff. And then we have a version of the film without the music. The second problem that we have is that in this film, there is no time code embedded. You could say, why don't you embed one yourself? It's pretty easy. Yeah, that's true. That's pretty easy. You just open Premiere and you do it. But I don't even want to go through this trouble. I spoke with the director, and we decided that it's going to be as simple as considering the very first frame of the video file that he provided me as 01000000, exactly as comes by default set up in Logic, so we have even less to do.
And the third thing that I want to mention, even though you'll see it now, is that I want to keep everything in a single Logic session. So first thing first, let's open Logic. I'm gonna start by opening the empty template. I'm not gonna go over this because I made a full tutorial on it. I'm gonna link it up here with a card probably, so you can have a look if you're interested. And here it is. And the very first thing that we're going to do is going to import the movie. Now, obviously, we're going to import the version without any music. It's in Musica. And here it is. You open the music, extract the audio track, and now it's gonna ask me if I want to change the frame per second of the project, and Logic automatically changes the project for you. If you don't want to do this because you use another DAW, for example, in Pro Tools is not automatic, or if you want to check it. Anyway, a good way to check the frame per second of a project is using QuickTime. You just open the file, and in QuickTime you press on Command I, and you get this information box, the inspector, and here is going to tell you the frame per second, which is exactly 23.98, like Logic detected. If you then want to change it in Logic, you go on File, Project Settings, Synchronization, and you're gonna make sure that the frame rate selected is one of those. This is all we need, or basically all we have really. Ideally, I would want to put a reference track with the music here and more stuff, but we don't. It is fine, you know. It's part of the game. We work with what we have. So I am going to put it at the very beginning because I had a few extra bars at the beginning, which I don't need in this session. So here's what I want to do. I want to set up this as a master session. So I'm gonna go here. For now, you'll notice that this alternative is just called like the template that I'm using. So I go to Edit Alternative, and I'm gonna call this Insolación. Now I know that Insolación has a accent on the O, but I have a US keyboard. Let's see if I can make it happen. Oh yes, I think it's like that. I hope it's the right accent. Sorry, Spanish native speakers, if I'm butchering your language. Anyway, let's call it Insolación. I will call it master. Okay, I'm gonna save it, save as in the project folder that I already set up. It's called Insolación. We're gonna call it exactly that. It's 2020 0415. Okay, this is gonna be my entire project, and then I'm gonna make a new project alternative, and I'm gonna call this Insolación 1M1. So you'll see where I'm going. I basically want to make an alternative for every single cue that we're gonna make. Then every single cue is gonna have a version number. So we're gonna put a new alternative for every version. So I'll make a new alternative if I need to make a version 2. So this is gonna be called V2, and so on and so forth. So my idea is that here I'm gonna have a list of all the different cues with all the versioning that I'm gonna make. Let's delete this one because it's just gonna create confusion for now. Okay, now that I have a copy, I can actually go back to the master one, and I can go here and I can make a new audio track, which is gonna be called music. Oops, it's gonna be called music. And I actually can get rid of pretty much everything else because I don't need it in this particular alternative. This is going to be my master session. Ideally, if Rogelio is going to provide me with a dialogue track and a sound effects track as separate tracks, I'm going to add them over here. But for now, I don't have it. So I'm just going to use those. And obviously, Rogelio is then going to mix it with the film. We are only delivering the music for now. So I can save this alternative. Now we need to move to the alternative 1 and 1, and we're gonna need to decide where the music starts. What happens is that you would normally have a spotting session with the director deciding where the music goes. Basically, Rogelio edited the entire film using temp music, and he's happy with where the music is at the moment. He's not happy about the temp music, and we discussed what we're gonna do with it. But in terms of spotting session, I know that where the temp music is right now is where he wants the music. Now, not having a time code is gonna be a little bit of an issue in terms of synchronization, but this is not an action film where you need very specific hit points, so where the synchronization is gonna need to be incredibly precise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go through the film. I will probably mute parts where the music is because I can't play back the temp music on YouTube. I'm gonna take a little note of where everything goes, and then we're gonna set up logic in a way that bar 1 is where every cue starts. I'm probably just gonna make a couple because after that it's just a boring process. It's gonna be the same. I should probably give you a little bit of an idea about what the film is without spoiling too much. So the film is in black and white, as I said. It's pretty cool, and it's sort of an horror film, really. It's about climate change, and it's in a post-apocalyptic world, in a post-apocalyptic Mexican city, which Rogelio is from Mexicali, which is in Baja California, so it's pretty close to the border with the US. So I would imagine that the city that is depicted there is Mexicali, but I'm not sure. The heat reached awful levels, and we're basically following the story of this couple that all of a sudden runs out of water, and the guy goes out to look for some, and some pretty crazy things will happen. Aesthetically, Rogelio told me he basically shot it as if it was an episode of The Twilight Zone. If you don't know what The Twilight Zone is, have a look. It's pretty interesting. So it has that sort of vintage vibe to it, but the music not so much. We have some specific direction that I'm gonna go over with you while we do this. So let's watch a little bit, and let's stop where the first music cues start.
Seguimos con más información y comenzamos con temas delicados. Le comparto que la...
Alright, first music cue right away. I can probably leave that in. It's literally 2 piano chords. Okay, so you see, having the time code would be really helpful, but it's fine. We'll make it work. So we know that at minute 0:06 or 7, sort of, we're gonna need it. So here I have Evernote, which I always keep in when I'm doing spotting, and I know that 1 and 1. It's here. Okay. Okay, so this is technically a second cue. Oh wow. Still gonna treat this as a single cue, so this is still 1M1 for me. That's creepy. Okay, this is a little source music. I'll need to make sure that, I work in tonalities that work with each other. So once I finish 1M1, I probably need to import 1M1 in the session of 1M2 to make sure that they work together. But for me, that is definitely a different cue. So let's see where this starts, and that will be 1M2. Yeah, it's cool. The audio processing that Rogelio used with this temp use is really cool. Need to make something like that. I think it's 222 more or less. No, a little earlier. Yeah, let's say 220. Not having the time code here is a real issue. But again, we work with what we have. So now with those in, I can close this version, go back to my project, listen to the version without music. And we're gonna basically decide where we're gonna start using Logic timecode. So, sometimes I do this kind of stuff that I use like a title as a cue to get in. Can use probably Momo Studios as a cue.
Seguimos con más información.
Yeah, I think it would work if we started there. So let's roll back to where it actually starts, which is about here. So I think I'm gonna write down these as a actual time code. So it's gonna be 0718. Oops, perfect. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna go to File, Synchronization, and then I'm simply gonna say that bar 1 needs to start at whatever I said here, 10007 18. Can even put the decimals in if you want, but it's not particularly important. So I moved here, so now I know.
Seguimos con más información y comenzamos con temas delicados.
So that works fine. And now I'm gonna do I'm gonna save this alternative with a simple Command S, and then I'm gonna create a new alternative, which is gonna be 1M2, and do exactly the same thing at 222 over here, more or less. I can change it later on. So I'm gonna use this time code and do the same thing over here. Project settings, synchronization. I'm gonna write down over here 02 20 23. Okay. Which should now be at bar 1. Let's have a look. Yes. So here's the film. And yes, it works fine. Again, I might change that. I'm not sure about that yet, but we hit save. And we should be fine. So if I now go the project alternative, I have both. So let's close the project for now. And the last thing that I want to talk about is that Now, if you use the other system, which would be, the save as separate session, what other composers often say is that you should do that because otherwise, if you get a corrupted file, you can always go back to the previous version. And the other thing is that in this way, if you want to go straight to, say, a 1M3, you need to first open the project to whatever last queue you scored, and then go to project alternatives and go to that session. And that is actually not true, because there is this function on Mac which is called a quick look. You can click with spacebar on anything and it gives you a preview of the thing, and also works perfectly well with Logic files. So if I go on a Logic project and I click on spacebar, here on the right I have all the alternatives, and I can, for example, go to 1M1 and it opens the project at that alternative, and it's already set up for me. And don't be afraid to do that, because still think that if you corrupt a project, you always have a version before, because you do have your automatic backup that gets saved in Logic, and if that still doesn't work, you can always open a new project and import session data from the corrupted file. So there is always going to be a solution for that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you for the next part. I really want to thank you, Rogelio, for giving us the opportunity to do this live, using his film. I think it's going to be an amazing learning experience for whoever is watching this, although at the same time I feel extremely nervous about doing this on camera. I'm going to link Rogelio Vimeo channel down here. He's a really, really talented filmmaker. Please consider subscribing if you haven't done that already, and I'll see you next time.